Welcome once again to Carnegie Talk Time. We have as our guest today Barnea Sullivan, who's one of the principals for Foundation Stone. Welcome to our program, Barnea.
Thank you.
And one of our viewers would like to know, in a time like this where yeshivas don't have money and people have no food literally on the table, why should money be spent on dirt and digging and groveling in the ground?
We have to invest in education. We're investing in their children's education. The archaeological digs make history come alive and therefore energize all of our investment.
Why should overseas donors give to Foundation Stone when there are so many critical situations in Israel right now?
They're helping their own communities have a future, and therefore there will be donors in the future.
Okay. I know some of our studio audience would like to ask some questions.
Why don't you go to a bank for a business loan instead of asking for donations from overseas or from Israel?
We are not trying to make money from this. This is an educational effort which is worthy of philanthropic support, as opposed to spending that money on interest payments.
Do you have any other questions from our audience?
Yeah, how long have you been doing this?
Been involved in this type of venture for about 25 years, and in this specific application for 9 years.
And how well known are you within the community?
Within the Jewish educational community, our name is known, our products are known, and now we seek to galvanize that knowledge into support for educational digs in Israel.
I understand that you try to be involved in adventures outside the country as a means of getting support for what you're doing, and you're dealing with a lot of cultural issues where people aren't religious, but where they're depending on you to supply them with information or things where they can help them. And these require working on the Shabbat and on Jewish holidays. How are you able to accommodate people like that?
We believe that the classroom experience can be completed by programs here in Israel. Each community will decide for themselves their level of observance. We're just here as a catalyst.
What specific credentials or academic degrees do you have that give you a right to talk about archaeology?
I use archaeology in an educational format. I'm an Israeli tour guide. I've studied archaeology and met with the country's top archaeologists on site and in the classroom.
Okay, just curious, can you give us an example of some clients that you worked with?
The Kushner School in Livingston gave us their entire faculty to study all of their curriculum in an archaeological context, thereby completing the classroom experience.
Seems to me that as a rabbi, your interest is probably trying to make everybody religious, right? Is that like a secret agenda of yours?
We want the classroom experience to be a wholesome experience, and we're dealing with core Jewish identity. Every school takes this program within its own context.
Isn't that core Orthodox identity?
That core is identification with the Jewish nation. We don't define it. That's the beauty of archaeological digs. You find yourself in the roots.
Well, now, wouldn't we be doing more good for Israel if we gave our money to some organization like One Family or Kids for Kids program where they're dealing with victims of terrorism and help people that are living instead of some ancient site where everybody's dead? I mean, it's done and gone.
It's very important to support those in distress and in need. We must take care of them. Investing in an archaeological dig promotes local businesses, generates more income, and fosters Jewish education and care, which will translate themselves into the care for our brethren at a later time.
All this running around really requires that you keep pretty fit. How are you doing in that area, Barnea?
I've been sitting too much in front of the computer, frankly, Ron, and I need to get more people to come on our program so I can be out in the field more.
We'll let you have the last word, Barnea. in one sentence, why should we contribute to your organization?
If we dig our roots in Israel and we make our classrooms come alive, we'll have a happy and productive nation.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for being on our program. Barnea, some of them.
Thank you.
Kids in 2000 AC. We're all concerned about making making Jewish education effective for all children. Our speaker is a rabbi, a licensed educator, a tour guide, and a published author. He lectures internationally on linking the land of Israel and archaeology to the classroom experience. He's the co-director of Foundation Stone, an education development organization. Would you please welcome Rabbi Barnea Levi Solomon?
All right.
Okay, class, it's time to learn history! Can't you just feel the boredom oozing through your whole body? How do you think your kids feel when they're ready to go out and play or watch TV or have fun? We have a school that's a fantastic school, but the kids are coming out after years of study. They don't retain the details, and if they don't retain the details, they may not be retaining the morals and values that they want to share. They need context, tangible content, tangible contact, and visual images. I just spoke in a school in Toronto, and I asked an entire high school, what happened in Haran? And there was silence for quite some time. Haran is a basic site in the book of Genesis. All three generations of our forefathers and foremothers were there. And yet, there was no recognition. They were disconnected from that place. If they were disconnected from the description and the site and the context that the Bible describes, they probably also have limited retention of the facts and the morals of the messages. So what can we do to make history in the Jewish classroom come alive? Well, we have a few possible solutions. We can offer rewards for answering detailed questions, memorization of details. That has a lot of advantages to it. It creates positive associations. The children will study. But on the other hand, it doesn't really give a deep explanation, and there's no reason for them to continue with that once they're out of the classroom, and certainly not once they're out of school. Another approach would be having them do research reports. That has advantages because they would have personal ownership. They would work on the subject, something would be retained, and there's competition. However, once again, once they're out of the classroom, there's no real reason for them to continue with that, and it doesn't really provide an explanation of the verses. Another approach would be for them to make projects where they compare the events of yesteryear described in the Bible and the Talmud with their present situation. That has several advantages. It once again gives them personal ownership, and would give them a sense that those issues and those stories are relevant for their own lives today. But the disadvantage is they might not properly appreciate the context which was there, and they might draw the wrong conclusions, and therefore have a flawed philosophy throughout life. Foundation Stone's approach offers a healthier and more holistic solution. We bring the context of the events into the classroom, and we bring the participants of the classroom to the actual sites of events. For example, we took a girl from a broken home in a little hick town of New Jersey to ancient Haran, and there she opened an English Bible and read the story about Jacob meeting Rachel at a well from that time. When she came back to her home in New Jersey, she invited all of her friends over her house who were not Jewish, and lit Friday night candles, hosted a Friday night meal, and spent the whole time speaking excitedly about what she had done and what she had seen. And she's now coming back to Israel looking for a program to begin study after high school. How can we make a classroom come alive? How can we connect between the text in a classroom so far away from the events? Well, we can bring a visual image of, let's say, Abraham Abraham, everybody knows, came from Ur Kasdim from Mesopotamia. And people think that was a simple, primitive society. Well, here are some images. Look at the art. Look at the beauty. And this was the overwhelming civilization that Abraham faced. And maybe one of the types of idols that he had to smash. Oh, the child understands it now. And where did Abraham go? Abraham went and came into Israel and went from Shechem and down through Jerusalem to Hebron and Beersheba. And with a map in the classroom, every time the teacher teaches a text, they show where it happened on the map, and again couple it with visual images of the site. Even more exciting is to actually hold an artifact from that time. So for example, here is the most famous Jewish coin, a half shekel. This coin is a Tyrian coin, just as described in our Talmud, and was probably in the coffers of the temple dozens of times. When you hold it in your hand, the centuries dissolve, and you can just feel yourself standing in the temple. And all of the texts learned through the year to relate to it come alive. Well, you probably haven't heard of this approach before. Is there any evidence that this would actually work? It sounds nice in theory. So we gave a presentation in Toronto at the Ulpana of Bnei Akiva High Schools. Rabbi Shlomo Gemora is an Israeli, grew up and studied in the Yeshiva Kerem B'Yavne. We gave a presentation about ancient Yavne, and he said, I walked by there hundreds of times. I didn't realize that that was actually the ancient Yavne. And he wrote us a testimonial letter on stationery that was so exciting, the secretary who was typing it suddenly stopped, startled, when she realized the vision the rabbi was describing. This is the foundation stone vision. I'm enthused about how you bring archaeological artifacts into the classroom and how that transforms the classroom. And I can just see in my mind's eye hundreds and thousands of students walking in ancient Yavne, learning about the heritage that happened in that place and taking those values with it. So in conclusion, if we close the circle, if everything the children study in the classroom has something visual that's connected with it, has something tangible to touch, and if we can take the teachers and the students to Israel and the countries around and put them in the site of the events and give them a project to do on site, they will absorb, and all of those events will become embedded in them together with their messages. If you take the foundation stone approach, all of your investment in your school's education will stay with the children as they walk out into life. We have time now for a few questions. Who has the first question? Yes, David?
How long have you been doing this for?
The question is, how long has Foundation Stone been active in providing this type of educational experience? On the level which I'm describing it, about 8 to 9 years. But the research that led to it is over 20 years of work. Who has another question? Who has the next question?
Where's your work more, in Israel or in the Philippines?
The question is, where is the main center of Foundation Stone's activities? Foundation Stone's research is in Israel, Turkey, Jordan, Egypt, Rome, Greece, all of the countries covering the events from the beginning of the Bible through the time of the Mishnah. We prepare media for classroom presentation also in the site of the events. Then we have programs to present that to communities, to educators, and to students overseas. I would say that about 40% of our time is spent overseas. 60% of our time is both in research and presentation of programs on the actual site. Who else has a question? Who has the next question?
Do you have such a program in the countries of Soviet Union of the past?
The question is, are Foundation Stone's programs available in Russia, the Soviet Union, and other countries? Foundation Stone has basically prepared programming in English and in Hebrew, has presented programs in Israel, Canada, and the United States. We have invitations to England and to France, and once we have capitalization to develop and fully present the programs, it will be very easy to prepare translations and train staff for those countries. Who has the last question?
How is this program funded?
The question is, where does funding come from for Foundation Stone development? The answer is, several private donors have given money through their federations. Schools have ordered programs, which in turn is reinvested in the programming. And Foundation Stone is looking for serious general Jewish community funding in order to create an arsenal of materials that can be used by the entire Jewish spectrum of education. So in conclusion, if you would like to completely revitalize Jewish education, if you would like every child walking in excited into the classroom and continuing their connection to their studies and exploring further outside of the classroom, please sign up in the back for Foundation Stone program for your school. Thank you.
I would like to thank Rabbi Sullivan for showing an exciting way to see history, to learn history.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi Sullivan.
Hey, that's